What it do, baby? Welcome to a tasty Tuesday edition of The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. Jesse Cofield to my left, Emerson Latzia to her right. However, we are not alone.
That is the truth. Today on the show, we're going to be talking why the Bruins are going to win the Stanley Cup with Bruins legend Zdeno Chara, a PGA Tour version of March Madness, and which NBA teams to back on the DK Sportsbook tonight.
All right, first things first, a Tuesday tradition. Unlike any other here on The Sweat, buckle up, baby, because it is the takeoff with Jared Carabas. Good morning, Jared. How do you do?
Emerson, Jesse, how are you guys today?
We're great. We're great.
Doing fantastic. You know who's punching air this morning? The WBC is meaningless crowd after that epic semifinal walk-off win for Japan against Mexico last night. You've been in some passionate back and forth conversations on Twitter with many people, KFC. Sum up for us why this tournament is so good for baseball.
Ooh.
I mean, we're talking about tens of millions of people around the world are watching these games. And it's just ignorant as Americans to say no one cares, blah, 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 blah. It's the World Baseball Classic, not the American Baseball Classic. Tonight's championship game, Japan versus the United States, has the potential to be the most watched baseball game ever played in recorded history. Some of these games have done bigger numbers in terms of viewership than the most watched World Series games ever played. Last night, Japan walked it off against Mexico. That clip of the walk-off had over 11 million views on Twitter in 1 hour, Emerson. 1 hour. So this is why it's so great for the game of baseball, because now the entire world is tuning in. And there are a lot of people that are sitting there saying, oh, well, no one in America cares, so it doesn't matter. Just because, how ignorant and self-centered do you have to be if your take is, well, I don't care about it, so no one else in the world cares about it? Wrong. Everyone else in the world is tuning in. These games are doing monster numbers, and that's fine. If you're an American sports fan and you're tuned into March Madness, I'm not the type of baseball fan that's gonna say, hey, you know what? Stop doing what you're doing and come care about my sport. I don't care. You're only doing yourself a disservice if you're not tuning in to watch these games. I got mocked for saying that they created Game 7 of the World Series type environments. That's exactly, there was no hyperbole there. You have players like Randy Arozarena and Trey Turner, players who have played in the World Series and done big things in the World Series, telling you that their highlight moments in this tournament were more significant to them than their World Series moments, and that their crowds are just as loud, if not louder.
Move this tournament to July every 4 years, like the rhythm.
No.
Why not?
Wrong.
Why would that not be a better spot for this tournament? Moving it to July. I mean, if every other sport can figure it out, say for World Cup, that kind of stuff, why can't baseball figure this out? Because I feel like it would be better for the sport and even for Major League Baseball. I'm not complaining about the numbers right now. I just think it could be even better in July.
Because you're doing a disservice to all the players that aren't playing. Like, baseball is not a sport. Like, that's why they play every day, because you have to. Like, baseball is not a sport where you can just play once a week. Like, it's not the NFL. It's not the NBA. It's not the NHL where you can play 3 times a week or once every 3 days. That's just not how baseball works. To stay in baseball shape, especially for the pitchers, these routine freaks, like, they have to be playing baseball every day. And if you take 2 weeks off, that's, I don't know, like, you're kind of still not giving enough time. Or if it's 5 days or whatever they want to narrow it down to, now you're just kicking a bunch of countries out. Like, some of the best storylines, like, I get it, the Czech Republic, they're not going to make it to the final, but they were one of the best stories. You had dudes that were mechanics and teachers in high school that were going out there and competing against Japan and Shohei Ohtani. Like, that was cool. That's a cool story. Team Israel, that was a cool story. Team Italy, I mean, that they had no business like winning baseball games in this tournament, but they go out there and they were a cool story. So now it's like, all right, let's just cut the fat and we'll get to the Venezuelas, the Puerto Ricos, the Japans, the United States of the world. All right, what about Team Mexico? No one gave them a shot to get to the semifinal, and they almost won. They almost made it to the championship game. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to give it the time that it needs to all play out, to have all the stories that are necessary. And it's also, again, it's doing a disservice to the players that aren't playing it to have to sit there and wait to resume their seasons when there are tens of millions of dollars on the line for those players.
I think Team Italy, my favorite part about them was they had like a little espresso machine in their.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They were just like.
That's right.
They were literally.
Is it
just
the
like,
bullpen? I think.
Yeah, in the bullpen, like taking shots of espresso.
Sipping.
Very Italian. Jared, does it get any better than Trout versus Ohtani tonight? And like, which team are you rooting for? Because before we came on, you were like, I might have to jump ship and join Japan. There was some talk of you becoming the Tom Cruise of Japan.
Correct. Right. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but it was something like 93.6% of televisions in Japan were watching the World Baseball Classic semifinal last night. So I'm like, I think I'm in the wrong country. I mean, it's beaten into my brain that football is king. Apparently just here. So, I mean, if baseball is king somewhere else, I might have to go there if we're being honest, but I am rooting for the United States. I do think it's going to be an outstanding game. The storyline of Shohei Ohtani versus Mike Trout is like, I have been waiting for this for not necessarily like a head-to-head matchup of the two, because my brain couldn't even fathom such a scenario before this tournament started, but more or less like you're seeing a version of both of these players that we've never seen before. Mike Trout has been in the league for over a decade. Shohei Ohtani's been in the league since 2018. That's half a decade. We've never seen him get this fired up. Like, down by one, leading off the bottom of the ninth, hitting a double and going nuts when he gets into second base, hitting a double. Like, we've never seen Shohei show that type of emotion. Mike Trout getting excited in some of these games and being fired up for his teammates, moments that he's not even directly involved in, getting excited. We've never seen this before. So now we take it to the absolute pinnacle, the championship game, but it's against each other. So I think, you know, shout out to Joey, my co-host on Baseball is Dead. He had the tweet last night with all the numbers, all the viewership numbers. This has the chance to be the most watched baseball game in recorded history.
Yo, does playing in these games make Mike Trout more likely to want to leave the Angels?
It's an interesting question, and it's funny you bring that up, because that was my take before the tournament even started. I said that on Baseball's Dead.
That's because we listened to you on your podcast.
Pay attention, Mike Trout. He's going to end up getting a little taste of October baseball, and if Shohei Ohtani ends up leaving, guess what? He's probably going to be like, you know what? Give me some more of that feeling that I had during the World Baseball Classic. He's going to be a guy that's, I think he's going to be addicted to the moment. And it would be amazing if he could. I'm not advocating for him to like leave, but like at the same time, I'm advocating for him to leave.
I mean, hell, same with Shohei Ohtani, right? I mean, if those dudes want to be playing meaningful baseball in October, the only way that's going to happen is if they're traded to the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's a fact.
So back to last night real quick. Speaking of the Red Sox, you got Yoshida with that clutch tater for Japan. Alex Verdugo looked good for Mexico here, Jared. Like, Red Sox players are dominating the WBC from beginning to the end tonight here, man. How much stronger is your confidence in the 2023 Red Sox because of these players performing at this high level right now in the WBC?
I mean, I told you my first legal bet in the state of Massachusetts was Red Sox to make the playoffs. I was like, that's easy money. Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. I looked at kind of this tournament, and it was not so much that it changed my opinion on anything. It more just confirmed my thoughts prior to going in. This is going to be a breakout season for Alex Verdugo. Team Mexico, he had a lot of big hits in this tournament. Love the energy from him. And then a guy like Masataka Yoshida, everyone's like, well, you know, he's got a great eye, plate patience. He knows the strike zone. He's going to get on base a lot, but is he going to be able to hit big league velocity? Is he going to be able to make the jump from Japan to the big leagues? 3-run bomb to tie it in the 7th. And then a lot of criticism about his defense. He cut down a runner in the 8th inning. That was the game. If he doesn't do that, Japan loses. They lose. So I think it kind of just, I needed to see him play more defense, I guess. And I still do. I mean, I'm not going to say that, he's going to win a Gold Glove or anything, but all the reports were that this guy's dreadful. He's a defensive liability. I don't happen to see that at all. So yeah, I'm excited for both of those guys.
I mean, all the Red Sox players too were tweeting last night after he sends presents to the people. It was pretty cool to see everyone behind him there on social media.
Yeah, for sure. Jared, before we let you go, what's new in podcast land?
So I was on the Gojo show that came out today.
Ooh.
That was really fun. We talked about the World Baseball Classic for about 20 minutes. And the second that I hang up with you guys, we are going to record the newest episode of Baseball is Dead, where we will be breaking down all the action from the World Baseball Classic that's already happened, plus getting into a preview of tonight's championship game between the United States and Japan, Ohtani versus Trout, and all the storylines in between.
Whew.
All right. We told Joey we said hello.
I will definitely do that for you, yeah.
And Dallas too. I like
too,
that Randy Rosarina thread that he had, Joey did on Twitter. I thought that was really impressive. He's got an incredible story.
Yeah, he said he does.
All right. Later, dude. Appreciate
Okay,
it, man. Peace.
Bye.
So bracket for the WBC down to just 2 teams. The NCAA tournament, men's tournament, hell, and the women's tournament, down to just 16 right now.
Ooh.
Sweet 16.
Yeah. Going to be pretty interesting to see how this shakes out. A lot of brackets have been busted. Every single bracket has been busted. But Julian Edlow had something to say about the Sweet 16 and what that's going to look like.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, first 4 days, first 2 rounds of March Madness in the books, and it did not disappoint. Some major upsets, obviously things got going on Thursday afternoon. Furman, near buzzer beater on a wild play to take down Virginia. We got Princeton not only upsetting Arizona as a 15 seed, but doing it again to Missouri and advancing to the Sweet 16. And then, of course, just going off the point spread, the largest upset in tournament history. Fairleigh Dickinson takes down number 1 seeded Purdue as 23-point dogs there. Certainly lived up to the hype. Plenty of great games. In terms of the point spreads, much closer to even. Favorites went 24, 23, and 1 against the spread, although 16 underdogs did win outright in those 48 games. The real story, if you're looking to turn a profit on a trend game by game, was the unders. Unders went 32 and 16 in those first 48 games of the tournament. So unders profitable so far. Here's another one to look forward to over the weekend. In the Elite 8 last year, first half unders all hit. So first half unders in the Elite 8, that was a trend a year ago, but looking forward to some plays from those games. I think a lot of the heavy favorites, your Alabamas, your Houstons, your Creightons, are going to get through. Alabama still just minus 125 to win the region. They have a much lighter half of the bracket, plus 180 to reach the national title game, where they would play probably one of the heavy hitters from the other side of the bracket. So I think some value still in the futures market on Alabama. And the game I'm looking for is that Thursday night game in Vegas. UCLA meets Gonzaga. That's going to be a good one, but give me the more balanced team here. That would be UCLA on the money line, a team that ranks very high in offensive adjusted efficiency and defensive adjusted efficiency, while Gonzaga has the best offense in the nation, ranked pretty far down there on defense. I think balance comes through in Vegas for UCLA on Thursday night.
All right, you're looking at some Sweet 16 early action going down. You got the most bet spreads that you're looking at. Alabama -7.
Alabama.
Most bet money line, also Alabama. And most bet tournament champion is UConn, not Alabama, even though Bama has the best odds. Interesting. Okay. All right. So
hoops.
Let's
you want to talk some
bring in
hoops?
our hoop stars. That would be DraftKings contributors Nick Fryer and Jeff Pratt. They are here in studio with us, as you can see. Guys, quick reaction to the NCAA tournament. Anybody, I mean, obviously there's been some crazy bracket busters, some crazy upsets.
So much fun.
Anybody that you really were shocked that is not moving forward, or anybody who maybe is an underdog you could see going all the way? What do you think?
What's your
Jeff,
deal,
we'll
dude?
go
Why
with
are you
Jeff
looking
first
at me
because
like that?
Nick is staring Emerson down.
There's
a little bit of
your deal?
There's a little bit of animosity here.
I don't know what you
I think I have no idea why that might be
I
the
have no
case.
idea either. It's uncomfortable.
Can we even be shocked about anyone not
why it's
advancing
called
at this point?
madness.
It's
Yeah.
why it's called madness. This is great for the tournament, by the way. Before, these 1-16 seed matchups were just a formality. Now, this is exactly what the committee wanted. Everyone who takes the floor, except for maybe Iowa State, who put together one of the most pathetic first-round performances I have ever seen, can win these games. So I can't really say I'm shocked. I was expecting Marquette to make a deeper run. I think their offense was looking really good. Obviously, they weren't battle-tested heading into the tournament, but they had a battle-tested head coach in Shaka Smart. So, you know, I'm not shocked about anyone. I'd say they were probably the biggest surprise. I was expecting them to make a little bit of a deeper run.
Fryer, do you want to
Fryer, you have a favorite Cinderella?
Well, look, all I care about is that clearly the seeding. It's not going to be about you, Emerson. I know you're that stupid smile on your face. It's nothing
I
to
have
do
no
with
idea
you.
what's going on.
All I care about is that Northwestern won a game and Purdue choked. All right, so we've been talking about plenty about what happened with Purdue and everything, and I get that. But to me, what I take out of this tournament is Northwestern, better basketball team than Purdue this year, and that's all that matters to me. Also, a little upset about it, how everything's kind of gone down with the Friars, of course, because second favorite team in college basketball. But that's all I care about.
Okay.
Well, we care about you, and I hope you're in a better mood as this segment
interesting.
moves forward.
That's
and you
very
stop
interesting.
staring through my soul, you creep. 8 games around the NBA tonight, so let's dive into that. Cleveland and Brooklyn here. Fryer is one of only 2 matchups on the slate tonight between teams with winning records. So give us a bet you like tonight for this one, because you're going to cover the sportsbook angle and you're going to cover the DFS side of tonight. What do you got?
Yeah, so look, I know that the Cavs, it's a small number right now at -3. Earlier it was -2.5. But still, I'd rather stick to the money line on this one. It was -130. I know -150 right now, not a great number. There is a way that you can kind of better yourself a little bit in terms of the payout. I'll get to that in a second. But Cavs, 14-8 straight up as road favorites. And I know the Nets are still going hard. They have not been covering and not been winning of late. Obviously some tough matchups with the Kings and the Nuggets. But I think that OKC loss is telling. As much as OKC has been playing well of late, I think they've won 7 of their last 10, something to that degree. But the Nets, they're playing to their opponents right now. And I think for the Cavs, that puts them in a better spot. If you want to try and get a little bit of a better payout here instead of the spread, which you can play, I totally understand that. I think adding Evan Mobley to block 1 shot in this game is the way to go. That brings that play up to +110.
All right, Jeff, who are you eyeing on tonight's DFS slate from this game? Because the Nets have lost 3 straight. Good news is they're hosting the Cavs, and the Cavs really suck on the road. 20 of their 28 losses have come away from Cleveland.
Yeah, I'd just like to pick up where you left off. This is not a good DFS matchup for either side here, but specifically the Brooklyn Nets. Cleveland is incredibly tough defensively from a DFS perspective. They rank top 3 in allowing the fewest fantasy points to point guards, shooting guards, and small forwards. They're really tough against everyone else. So by that logic, you can immediately knock Spencer Dinwiddie and Mikal Bridges out of the equation. Those are 2 of the top 3 most expensive players in this matchup. I would also fade the rest of the Nets just because outside of those guys, they are too inconsistent to trust. That leaves me with the Cavs side of this matchup. And I am going with a guy Nick mentioned here, Evan Mobley, who has just been incredibly solid, 40-plus fantasy points in 3 straight games. He's under 8K. The value is there. Now, from an injury standpoint, Jared Allen is questionable with that eye issue he's been dealing with. There's a chance he misses tonight's game. Even if he comes back, I still like Mobley tonight. I think the value's there.
All right, the other matchup between 2 teams with winning records is the nightcap between Boston and Sacramento. Celtics just 4-5 in the month of March, while Sacramento is 7-2. So, Jeff, who do you have your eye on from a DFS perspective for this one?
Rob Williams is back, huh?
Rob Williams is back.
Congratulations.
I'm looking at one of the 2 J's here, and both of them have fantastic matchups on paper. Not only do the Kings allow the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wins, they also really push the pace. So Sacramento's philosophy is they are not going to beat you by playing defense. They're going to get out there and going to score a ton of points, and as a result, the defense can fly out of the window. So out of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I'm going to roll with the more dependable option, who also just happens to be the cheaper player, which is Jaylen Brown tonight. Tatum, he obviously has a higher fantasy ceiling. He grabs more rebounds. He racks up more assists. He has a higher usage rate. But he has just been so inconsistent since the All-Star break. Some nights he'll drop 65 fantasy points. Other nights he'll only go for 35. It is just not worth the price tag with that inconsistent headache. Meanwhile, Jaylen is $1,500 cheaper and has been much more dependable for the Celtics as of late. He scored 44 plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. He's been carrying the bulk of Boston's offensive workload. I just trust him more than Jason Tatum until proven otherwise.
All right, Nick, on the betting side of this one, offense not going to be in short supply here, right? Kings scoring the most points in the league, 121.1 per game. Boston coming in 4th at 117.6 per contest. So it's probably going to be the defenses that decide this one, right?
Yeah, one would think. In the end, I mean, with how shaky things have been for the Celtics since the All-Star break in this month, I got to go with the Kings to cover the spread here tonight. I know, looking at the markets right now, the Celtics are the popular play, and they are getting some sharp money against the spread. That's why the spread has now been bumped up to 5 at this stage. I think I saw it open at plus 4.5. I'm not sure exactly, but either way, it's been trending towards the Kings getting extra points. And honestly, at plus 4.5, and it could be a little bit lower, and I'd still like the Kings in this one. After a loss, the Kings are 17-10 against the spread. With rest advantage, they're rest disadvantage. They're 13-5 against the spread, and we know with the Celtics, they have a rest advantage. They usually don't do as well. In this case, 5-6 against the spread, and after a loss too, they are 10-12 against the spread.
Value play DFS rankings. Who sits atop those for you?
I'm going with Eric Gordon, who's really starting to fit into this Clippers offense. He's racked up 23 plus fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. And when Eric Gordon steps on the floor, he has one goal, which is to put the ball through the basket. You can't rely on him to grab rebounds effectively. You can't expect him to rack up assists effectively. But what you can expect him to do is score the basketball. And that's great, honestly. It's what you're looking for from a sub-5K player, someone who will get on the floor, be deliberate and aggressive with their approach. They know what they want to do. And the Clippers get OKC tonight, which is a fantastic matchup for Gordon. Not only do they rank bottom 4 in allowing the most fantasy points to wings, but they're also playing really good basketball right now and fighting for a playoff spot. So it's not like we're looking at potential blowout territory here where Gordon would only play 10 to 20 minutes. He's going to see his full workload. This is a great spot for him to keep it rolling.
All right, Nick, give us a team to cover the spread that we haven't talked about yet.
Well, it's going to be the team that Jeff just talked about.
I'm so sorry.
It's almost
Fair
like
enough. It's not one. Like,
Do I have? I can talk about a Celtics DFS value
my
option.
God.
Okay.
No.
Anyways, the Clippers, it's at -7 now. When I first saw it, it was -6.5, and I like that number. Looking at some of the market movement too, the Clippers are not the popular play on the spread right now, but the sharps are in on that. The big thing for me here is, like, yes, I know OKC has taken care of business against the Clippers in previous meetings, but they have not seen Paul George and Kawhi Leonard together at any point in the season. They got a taste of Paul George. In that loss, I think the Clippers lost by 8 in that one to OKC. In the game without them, they lost by 14. So now you're going to get a taste of Kawhi and Paul George. I don't think that's going to bode well for OKC, who has been hot, but the Clippers also 5-2 against the spread over their last 7.
All right, I think both of you did a tremendous job.
Yep.
And it was nice to see you smiling by the end of this segment.
Yeah, it's hard. I just look at you long enough, it's hard not to.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can tell you really mean
I think
that.
that's a compliment.
Well.
Hey, thanks, guys. We got to go.
Okay.
Because, hey, the NBA playoff starts in what? 3 weeks from now? Guess what? 4 weeks until now. The postseason starts around the NHL tonight. There's a 13-game slate. And would you look at this? The Bruins are on another winning streak.
Absolutely historic season for the black and gold. So it's honestly no surprise to see them as the favorite to win the Stanley Cup, right? It's one of the most popular bets DraftKings Sportsbook has pulled in since launching in Massachusetts. And over the weekend, Julian Edlow attended one of our local launch celebrations, and he actually was able to chat with a former Cup champion himself.
All right, Julian Edlow here for DraftKings here at the Massachusetts State Launch Party at Banners by the TD Garden, and we're sitting down with Bruins legend Zdeno Chara. How we doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. Excited to be here. Big day for us, obviously, at DraftKings. But while we have you here, let's talk a little Boston Bruins. Obviously, a historical pace, the way that they have started this season. What do you think that puts on the Bruins in terms of pressure heading into this postseason?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very, very historically successful season.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to be facing some sort of a pressure going into the playoffs, but I don't think it's something they haven't faced yet. It's always difficult to face that maybe every game during that stretch of the season. So it's going to be interesting how they handle it in the playoffs.
All right, so you have been through these Stanley Cup grinds in the past. Tell me about what goes into that. What do you need? What kind of bounces, what kind of luck, what kind of play from your players and your goaltender do you need to make a run to the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah, like you said, you need your best players to be best players. You need to have some luck on your side.
Yeah.
That's very important. And the goalie has to be obviously very, very strong. I think that every series is different, every year is different.
Yep.
But I think that as long as they approach it game by game, I think they're gonna be fine.
All right, so Bruins heading into the postseason. What do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for the Bruins in the playoffs, or who rather do you think will be the biggest challenge for the Bruins in the playoffs?
It's hard to pick a team. I think that playoffs is kind of like not a season. Everybody starts from zero. I think that as long as they stay healthy, it's going to be hard to beat them.
All right, for Julian Edlow, for Zdeno Chara, thanks for joining us, Big Z.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, the Eastern Conference here around the NHL. Basically, if the regular season ended today, which it doesn't, there's still around 4 weeks to go. The Bruins would be at the Panthers, Maple Leafs and Lightning, Hurricane. Oh, wow. So, AJ, no, I'm not seeing any Penguins on there.
Yeah, that's so weird.
And Jeff Ulrich, it's good to have you here as well. AJ, a little nervous right now, are we?
No. I mean, the blue line has been decimated by injuries. The goaltending's been subpar at best. But the fact of the matter, there's still Chris Letang, Evgeny Malkin, and perhaps most importantly, Sidney Crosby on this lineup here. Of course, I don't know that they'll have enough left in the tank after this 12-game push to go anywhere in the playoffs. But I think they'll make it. These guys just aren't in the habit of missing the postseason. So I think they'll force their way into the mix here. Whether they have anything left in the tank after that remains to be seen.
Jeff, I believe your Oilers in the West would be playing the Kings. But let's stick to the East because as we've talked before, I mean, the East is
a beast.
Yeah, the East is an absolute beast. How do you?
East is a beast. Yes.
I mean, how do you? Your thoughts just on how things are shaping up right now in these matchups?
My thoughts are it's going to be an absolute war out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Boston, I mean, I am praying that the Florida Panthers do not get into the 8th seed. I mean, anyone but Florida. This is a team who absolutely just ran through the league last year, and now their offense looks like it's back on the same level. They've taken some time. They've had Barkov injured. Everything seems to be coming together for the Panthers. And, the Islanders aren't exactly a soft matchup right now either. You've got a Vezina candidate, Ilya Sorokin, who may be feeling a little jilted if he does face the Bruins because, the guy on the other side, Linus Ullmark, is getting all the attention. So there's a couple bad matchups, even for the 1 seed right off the top. I'm not even going to mention the Devils-Rangers series, which could be an absolute war. Unfortunately for AJ, I'm of the opinion that the Penguins will be the odd person out here. I would take them on plus money to miss the playoffs right now. He mentioned the injuries. I just also like the other two teams a little bit more. I think the Islanders have a little bit more going with the goaltending. I think the Panthers are going to be an extremely hard offense to shut down over the last 10 games. So I'm looking at the Penguins as the team out right now, which it stinks. I kind of like them mid-season as a potential value, but they just never got it together. But man, the East is just going to be absolutely stacked from the get-go.
AJ, who's the biggest threat to the Bruins in the East?
If you asked me a couple weeks ago, I probably would have said Carolina, but with Andrei Svechnikov out, I don't think it's Carolina. They'll hold on, obviously, be in the mix here. It might be Toronto, to be totally honest with you, but they have to get past the Lightning, which has been a problem for pretty much everybody in the East for the last, 3 years here, 4 years. So I don't know. I mean, I think Toronto's probably the biggest challenge to Boston. They probably are cheering for the Penguins. Let's be honest. They would love that matchup against Pittsburgh because they would probably just cruise through them. But to think that we would have Eastern Conference playoff with no Sidney Crosby or Alex Ovechkin would be quite the shocker here. But Jeff is right. It's a definite possibility. If you are betting futures, Jeff's probably on the right take here to take that plus money that Pittsburgh misses out. I think they'll make it, but again, I'm definitely biased here.
Yeah.
Oh, we know.
We know.
Oh, we know.
Well, AJ, like Jeff said, it's going to be an absolute war out there. We got a 13-game slate tonight, close to all 32 teams in action. How do you tackle this thing? Who are you paying up for in DFS?
Well, we've been talking all about Boston here, and I don't see how you keep David Pastrnak out of your lineup tonight. Yes, 9,400 is the second highest player on the board, including goalies tonight, but he's riding a 5-game point streak, going up against the Senators team that is on the second game of back-to-back. They did win last night against the Penguins, but Pastrnak has 3 goals and 2 assists in his previous 3 matchups with Ottawa, and I think he's a near lock for a multi-point performance tonight based on both what Boston's doing and the fact they're getting a slightly tired Senators team tonight.
All right, Jeff, what's the play here?
Yeah, I like going to this late game with Dallas and Seattle. Dallas is another team in the West, a couple teams in the West. The Kings are also, their offense is cruising right now as well, along with the Oilers. But Jason Robertson's only 7,800 tonight. I think whenever you can get this guy under $8,000, I mean, you should think about paying up for him, but especially against the Kraken, who weak goaltending, they tend to get in shootout type of games, a team that trends towards the under. It's a good matchup for the top line of Dallas. I think Jason Robertson, obviously coming off a monster game, 3 points, 5 shots on goal, but that's the kind of upside that he brings every night, and that's why you should be interested in him at only 7,800. There's other studs on the slate, but for me, once you get under 8,000, I mean, Robertson in this matchup is to me like the best kind of value. So you've got other players down there like Mikko Zibanejad, Stützle, but they just don't have the kind of matchups that Robertson does tonight. Robertson's at home. He's got the Kraken. I'm expecting a higher scoring game. He's the target for me once you go under 8K.
Jeff, favorite value play on this loaded NHL slate tonight? Who is it?
Yeah, I mean, like we can go in so many different directions here. Obviously, I'm gonna take let's start by looking at Florida. I mean, I think that again, coming off a back-to-back game, it's obviously they're a little bit tired, but I mean, this is a team that also just can't afford to take their foot off the gas. So Anthony Duclair again, 4,200. I know we talked about him yesterday. But playing in the top 6 for Florida, gets power play exposure. Going up against the Philadelphia Flyers tonight, Duclair, 4,200, just a player you need to keep rostering, especially in these kind of matchups. So he'd definitely be on my list. And then, I would also take a look down Nashville's lineup tonight. Nashville's playing the Buffalo Sabres, obviously. Sabres just allow a ton of shots on goal. So you could look down, Matt Duchene's only 5,100, but even looking down further, Cody Glass gets a lot of attention as well, or a lot of ice time, excuse me. So looking down Nashville for some value is good, but I like starting with Duclair just for a straight-up value pick from Florida.
AJ, Jeff says you can go in a bunch of different directions tonight for your top value play, so which direction are you heading in?
Absolutely. There are a bunch of options here. I'll start with Vegas's Riley Smith comes in at just 4,700 tonight, heading into a matchup with the Canucks. Smith riding an 8-game point streak. It is an away game, but it's a really good matchup for a red-hot player right now. If you want to look on the blue line for some value, I still like Shane Gostisbehere here, despite his recent slump. He's performed well with his new team. 4,600 is the price tag, so you're not paying up towards the high end of the D market here, and I think could be in line for some points tonight.
AJ, whose odds do you like to win tonight?
I'll be honest, I don't think this money line for Arizona versus Winnipeg is right. You can get the Coyotes, who are on a 4-game winning streak, at a fantastic plus 225 value. The Jets, for their part, just 4-5-1 in their last 10 games. And they're trying to hold on to a wild card spot here. It looks like the line's even moved to plus 240. So Arizona 6-2-2 in their last 10. Now, I will admit, Arizona is terrible on the road. I mean, abysmal. Just 7 wins on the road this season. So maybe that line does make sense. But for me, I think they have a chance at that real good value here. They've been playing better as of late. So I like to get, more than 2-to-1 value on the Coyotes tonight.
All right, Jeff, where are you rolling?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we got a 13-game slate, so I'll go over a couple picks. But I mean, I don't mind taking a shot with the Wild tonight at plus 150. The Devils haven't looked super sharp over their last few games. Wild are playing well. They've done extremely well against the Eastern Conference as well. They've played well on the road. Both teams here are in 3 and 4 situations, which means it's going to be their third game and fourth night. So there's really no rest disadvantage on either side. I just think that the Wild are getting a little bit disrespected here. I think the Eastern Conference teams as a whole tend to get a little bit more just bets on them, a little bit more, their odds in the favor. So I think the Wild, the plus 150, very solid team, been playing well of late. And like I said, I think they're catching the Devils at a little bit of a point where the Devils kind of just in cruise control because they're not really in a playoff race and they can't really move up too much. So the Wild at plus 150 really stand out to me. But, I really don't mind going back to the puck line on a couple of these plays as well. I mean, you've got the Panthers again with a weak opponent at plus 140. I mentioned it yesterday. We covered at plus 135. It's a weaker team in Philly. There's really nothing has changed. Florida, yeah, it's a back-to-back, but I mean, this is playoff time for them, basically. They have to win. And then further down, I mean, I don't mind taking a shot with the Stars on the puck line either. They're at home. They're minus 1.5, plus 155 against the Kraken. I like the Kraken. They're a solid road team, but Dallas is just in another tier for me. So another puck line that I wouldn't mind taking a shot with that's over plus 150.
Ulrich, we'll get you guys out of here with this. Which game total do you have your eye on the DK Sportsbook? It's 6 and 6.5 across the board right now.
Yeah, so I mean, AJ talked about this game, but I mean, I like going under on the Jets and the Coyotes. The Coyotes don't score much on the road. The Jets' offense has been pretty putrid of late, but their defense is still pretty solid. I mean, obviously they have a very good goalie. The under in the Jets' last 21 games is 14-5-2. I've mentioned this numerous times on this show. If you just bet Jets unders this year, you're a very rich person. The unders hit in 6 of their last 8 games. Under 6.5 goals is hit, in 6 of their last 8 games. So they've been trending well under this number. I'm surprised that you can still get minus 120 on under 6.5 for the Coyotes and the Jets. Certainly like that bet.
AJ, which total are you going to bet?
Well, before I give you my total, I have to do a quick shout out to the Wisconsin women's hockey team for winning their 7th national title the other day.
Yep.
Go Badgers. Love seeing that out there. As far as tonight's slate and looking at the total, Jeff mentioned that Dallas has been really good in the month of March, averaging 4.8 goals per game. They've also been conceding 3.5 goals per game during the month of March as well. The Kraken do have a decent offense. So taking this line at 6.5 for the over, minus 105 is the value. It's a good spot here. And again, go Badgers.
Go Badgers. All right, good stuff, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, the bracket for the WGC was revealed yesterday.
It was.
So we're going to get our golf gurus' opinions on who will make it out of their group. That's going to be coming up next.
Yo, DraftKings, y'all got the most ways to bet on NBA players. I'm hyped. Hitting props, that's my dog. Stack up buckets, blocks, and boards on my boy.
Thanks, guys.
Superstar going one-on-one against another superstar. Oh, it's on. And all these bets are on my man's dedicated page? Now you spoiling me, DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and bet $5 to win $150 in bonus bets on your team to win. Action's so good, why bet anywhere else? That's my move. He used my move.
You know, betting without a game plan is a little like skating a giant ramp without helmet and pads. I wouldn't risk it. And I wouldn't bet without a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook provides you with tools to set a realistic budget and time limits, so you're ready to bet responsibly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and Casino apps to learn more about how you can practice safe bets.
This season, DraftKings Sportsbook is your place to bet on the greatest sport on ice. There's so many ways to get closer to the game. And with this latest offer, you can win big. Now that is deserving of some victory stick taps.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with the promo code, and take advantage of this great offer.
And get in on the action with an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
With DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports, you can play for millions with a lineup full of big NBA stars. Maybe you throw in a three-point specialist that's been around the league, seen a thing or two. You know, if you want. Download DraftKings and play for your share of millions. Action's so good, why play NBA anywhere else?
PGA Tour heads from the last stop on the Florida swing to Austin, Texas for the WGC Dell Technologies match play at Austin Country Club. This is going to be the 7th and final match play event in Austin because the tour does not currently have a 64-man match play event scheduled for next season or for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
So soak it in.
Yep. R.I.P. in peace. Here's a look at the bracket, folks. Scotty Scheffler, oh my God, the top overall seed. Why is that? All the way down to Cam Davis at number 64. So 16 four-man groups or pods playing over 3 days in the round-robin stage after group play. It'll go to single elimination with the champion being crowned on Sunday. The Action Network's Jason Sobel is here. RotoWire's Len Hochberg is here. So this thing's going to start up tomorrow. We'll have Jason tackle the sports betting side of this baby. We got Len doing the DFS thing that you like. Jason, what kind of advice do you have for people who want to bet this event? And is there like a group of death here?
Yeah, so, okay, that's a few questions there. First of all, it's March Madness. I get that everybody understands brackets, but my best advice for you, it's going to be very obvious here. I know you're not idiots, but don't bet outrights that are going to play each other. I know you might like John Rahm, you might like Ricky Fowler, but they're going to play each other tomorrow. You probably don't want to have outrights on both of them. Guess what? They're not both going to get to the final. So I would say if you're going to play multiple outrights, play them from opposite sides of the bracket. That should be something we all understand by now. As far as a group of death, I think we've got like groups of deaths. I've got 3 of them out of the 16. Group 2, which is the John Rahm group. Group 5, which I think is a really tough one to try to figure out there. And then Group 12, Jordan Spieth with some of the best short game artists in the entire world, some of the best putters in that group as well. So I think those are the 3 toughest ones for me.
Len, how do you tackle this from a DFS perspective?
Yeah, it's really challenging and really fun. And I'm sorry, this is sad. This is going to be the last one because it's just a different bird for us this week. And, you know, we look for aggressive play. We still have the 50,000 cap. We still have 6 guys. I look for aggressive players. This is where birdies are, you know, will win. And if you happen to go awry and double bogey, you're only losing 1 hole. So aggressive players. What I try and do is try and find the 6 group winners out of the 16, try and get them into my lineup, try and get as many guys through to the next round as possible and keep on with that, you know, but you have to do that within the salary cap. So you can't just pick 6 top guys. You've got to pick guys in the low 7s or 6s. Really challenging, really fun.
All right, we wanted you guys to fill out your own brackets, okay? March Madness style.
Yes.
So let's go through them. So Len, who are you confident will get out of their group?
Yeah, what I'm looking for is guys who are in weak groups. And there are some of them. Jason mentioned some of the groups of death, and I'm in agreement with him there for the most part. I'll start with Scotty Scheffler. I think Scotty Scheffler would have been a good guy to go to regardless. He won last year, second the year before. He happens to have a pretty good draw, and sad to say that he is with Tom Kim, no caravan this week. Tom has just not been great so far this season, so I do like him. And down at the bottom on that same side, Patrick Cantlay. His number 2 in his pod, in his 4-man group, is Brian Harman. Brian Harman could be dangerous and could win this thing, but not really at the top of his game. And on the other side, 3 guys, top seeds, who I think have very weak number 2s. Cameron Young is with Sepp Straka. Will Zalatoris is with Ryan Fox. And Tyrrell Hatton, who gets out of group play almost every year anyway, is with Russell Henley. It's not to say that any of these guys couldn't win, but they're all weak number 2s.
Interesting. Cantlay is 0 for 4 in advancing out of pool play. So interesting.
That makes me nervous, just a wee bit.
Jason, who are you confident is going to get out of their group?
Yeah, so Jesse, I think it's 2 different questions, who I like overall and who I like to get out of their groups, because some of the players that I like most to get out of their groups, I'm not picking to make the championship match or even the semifinals, but I do really like Victor Hovland out of Group 9. I think he's got sort of an easy road to get to the weekend. I like Tony Finau a lot. I like Max Homa. Max Homa's been playing some terrific golf. He's doing everything really well. Again, I'm trying to pick out some of the better players, some of the guys who are top seeds in their group that have sort of a weaker group to deal with, that aren't necessarily dealing with a group of death type of situation. I'll throw maybe Cameron Young in there as well, who I'm going to mention later in this segment, that is a guy that I really like moving forward. But yeah, those are some of the bigger names that I like it. Plus money, you get favorites at plus money to get out of a group in this one. I sort of like that value.
Jason, who was your biggest first round upset? Trying to pin it here on your bracket.
Yeah, I've got a couple of players coming out. Look, I have Nick Taylor just based on value to beat Patrick Cantlay and get out of that Group 5. I think that's a decent play based on the fact that Taylor's been playing some nice golf. He was runner-up in Phoenix. He was 10th last week in Tampa. I also have Lucas Herbert. I don't think I love it. Tyrrell Hatton is a guy that everybody is on. I'm off Hatton this week. I just don't think he loves this golf course, and so I'm looking for somebody else in that group, maybe Herbert. But the two guys that I really like the most as far as value players getting out of their groups, Ryan Fox, who's a big Kiwi that hits the ball a long way. He's never played in this one before, but I think he's got something to prove after being left off the President's Cup roster a year ago. And Taylor Montgomery, I know a lot of rookies, first of all, don't even get into this event. Secondly, are going to get in and say, well, I don't play match play. I never play match play. Montgomery's a guy that grew up in Vegas, playing a lot of money games. He is used to going out there and playing some match play for big stakes. I like him, especially in this Jordan Spieth group. I mentioned Group 12. Spieth, Lowry, Montgomery, Mackenzie Hughes, 4 guys with really good short games, really good putting strokes. Montgomery has shown he's number 2 in putting on the PGA Tour this season. He should be really good this week.
Len, who'd you draw up as your biggest first-round upset?
Well, everybody's dissing on Patrick Cantlay. You're going to want to stick around for the end of this program. 2 guys I like, both seated in the 50s, both in the 6,000s in the DraftKings pricing. Maverick McNeely seated 58th. I think he's $6,800. He has what I think is a weak group with the number 16 seed, the lowest of the top seeds, Sung J M and Tommy Fleetwood. Maverick McNeely, Jason just mentioned Taylor Montgomery second on tour in putting. Well, Maverick McNeely is first. If you remember last year, Maverick McNeely absolutely waxed Joaquin Niemann 8 and 6. So I like McNeely to get out of that group. He'll have to run into Scheffler, but that's for after that. And I do like Mackenzie Hughes. Jason was just talking about Taylor Montgomery. Taylor Montgomery, definitely dangerous. Mackenzie Hughes has gotten out of his group the last 2 years. He has beaten Max Homa, Matthew Wolff, Paul Casey, Webb Simpson. Great short game. Yeah, Spieth and Lowry, not great histories in this event. And Taylor Montgomery does concern me because of his putting, like Jason said, but I do like Hughes to get out of there.
All right, Len, take us forward. Take us to your final 4 and break it down for us.
Well, I think Scotty Scheffler is going to be pretty chalk, and a lot of people are going to go for him for all the reasons. He's playing well. He does well in this format. He's got a pretty favorable road out of his quarter. On the bottom half, on the left side, I do like Patrick Cantlay. You guys did mention that Cantlay has never gotten out of group play. I think that's just more curious than substance. And I think once he gets out, I mean, he is a real bulldog. We know he can play every part of his game. I think he will get to the Final 4. I'm very chalky on that side. On the other side, on the upper right, debating between Cameron Young and Will Zalatoris, good buddies, both aggressive players. I think Will Zalatoris gets the edge for me because he's a much better putter this year. And down on the bottom right, Tyrrell Hatton always gets out of group play, almost always gets out of group play. I think he'll beat Rory McIlroy in the knockout stage and get into the Final 4. Hatton has been on a roll in the Florida swing, as we've seen.
All right, Jason, break it down for us. What's up with your Final 4?
Yeah, so remember, the Final 4 isn't necessarily the 4 best players for the week. It's, hey, you might need to get a little lucky on Friday afternoon and then get in and just keep outlasting your opponents. And so I've got on one side of the bracket Sam Burns, who played well, a little bit of a comeback after 3 starts that weren't so great, but a 6th place finish in Tampa last week. Hits it a long way, putts really well. That's a nice combination to have in match play. I've got him going up against the resurgent Jason Day, who's playing some great golf so far this year. He's a 2-time winner of this event. On the other side of the bracket, a couple of super sophomores in Cameron Young and Sahith Theegala. I've been waiting for each one of these guys to go out and finally win a first PGA Tour event. I do believe that it's a lot easier to win a first PGA Tour event when you only have to play one other guy as opposed to beating 150 other players all at once.
All right, we're going straight to your champion. Len, you've teased it. Now tell us who it is and why it's the man who is 0 for 4 in advancing out of pool play.
Patrick Cantlay will beat Scotty Scheffler in the semifinals, avenging the 2022 Phoenix Open when Scheffler, who was not the better player than Cantlay at that time, just a little more than a year ago, Scheffler won the playoff, changed the course of PGA Tour history, at least current PGA Tour history. On the other side, Will Zalatoris, something I haven't mentioned but is important, 7 matches in 5 days to go all the way. Fitness will be an issue. Will Zalatoris concerning with his back. I think it will end there. Tyrrell Hatton will defeat Will Zalatoris in the semifinals. And do you want my final or all the way?
Yeah. Just give me who you got as the champion.
Patrick Cantlay.
Okay.
Patrick Cantlay will beat Tyrrell Hatton after 4 or 5 days of 7 matches. Tyrrell Hatton will yell at every blade of grass on the course, and finally his luck will run out, and Patrick Cantlay will be the champion.
Jason, you're champion. Reigning Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, it's a great pick by Len. He's just 2 weeks too early. I might be on Patrick Cantlay for a big one in a couple of weeks, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
That said, yes, I'm going reigning Rookie of the Year, a guy with a new caddy on the bag. He's one of the best caddies on the PGA Tour. Paul Tesori just stole him away from Webb Simpson. Cameron Young, I've got him to beat Jason Day in the final this week. Young is a guy that's been knocking on the door. I love the fact that he plays well on long golf courses, plays well on hard golf courses, plays well on short golf courses, easy golf courses. He just goes out there and hammers the ball off the tee, makes a lot of putts, makes golf look pretty easy. 9 top 3 finishes over the past 18 months for Cameron Young without a victory. That victory is coming very soon. And like I said, it's a lot easier when you only have to beat one guy each time than the entire field.
All right, good stuff, guys. Appreciate your help as always. We will talk to you later this week. As for us, we are out of here. The Sweat will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.